Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Frank, and today we're here at Long Island Sports Cars. This in front of me is the Aston Martin DB12, what they're calling the first ever Super Tourer. So let's go ahead and let's get into a review on this beautiful Super Tourer. Come on. So let's first start off on the name DB12. The DB bloodline started with the DB1 in 1948, and as you can see, 75 years later, they are now introducing the DB12. This, to them, deserved not the same name as DB11 and a newer model version, but they believed that this car itself deserved to have its own number next to it. So that's why they went ahead and went on with the DB12. And we're going to go ahead and see some of those major differences between this and the outgoing DB11 and what makes this car so special compared to that one. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start off some of the differences and the review overall on the DB12. Starting off on these exterior lines, the DB12 is going to be 6 millimeters wider on the front end with 12 millimeters wider on the rear end compared to the outgoing DB11. And that's what Aston Martin claims to be, just for increased track capabilities and usage. On top of that, you're obviously going to have a much larger front grille on here as well. A brand new splitter down there, which is finished in carbon fiber, and brand new LED lights. So coming down to the very front of the car, you can see, like I had said, that much larger front end grille. Looks more like a quintessential Aston Martin front end grille as well. They really brought back what I feel the heritage of Aston Martin, the DB name. I love the lines in here. You know, it really reminds me of an older generation Aston Martin. So going down, obviously, with that large front grille finished in gloss black or piano black finish, whatever you may want to call it. We have this ginormous front end splitter, and on the bottom we have these little carbon fiber lower splitters that extend and protrude out of the front. They look really good on here. I love the way they look. We have our classic Aston Martin wings right above that, finished in your British racing green, and then we have that brand new headlight design on here as well, which I think looks absolutely gorgeous, super elegant. And inside of the headlights you can see much more design pattern, a lot more thought process, it seems, went into these. They look super elegant, and I think they fit this car perfectly. One thing to note is that on the lower portions of these headlights, you can see that pyramid design in there. Aston Martin is calling it a reverse pyramid design, and that is made from AI, actually. It is, according to them, generated and designed by AI, and it helps reflect light back up. So really cool little feature that they kind of put in here that you would really never notice unless you looked really closely at the car. Now moving our way slightly above the front end, we have this extremely large hood on here with two large hood vents in here too. Super aggressive look, kind of looks a little similar to the DBS, but obviously with its own touch, making it iconic to the DB12. Now you can see also with the light reflecting off of there, more body lines and designs right into there, giving that hood a more aggressive look on the front end. Now we're going to go ahead and pop that hood open and see what makes the DB12 so special compared to the DB11. All right, guys, so we are now underneath the hood of the brand new DB12. First thing to note is, of course, in typical Aston Martin fashion, your hood release is going to be in the passenger side footwell, so just keep that in mind. So let's talk about the new DB12 that replaces this now outgoing DB11 and what makes this so special. First thing to note is that this is a 4.0 liter V8 that's twin turboed. The DB12 is not going to come with a V12 inside, unlike the DB11. However, one thing to note with this V8 is that it has more power than the outgoing V12 that was inside of the DB11. So a couple of specs to note is that this car has 671 horsepower with 590 pound-feet of torque. It's gonna have an 8-speed automatic transmission with a 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds and a top speed of 202 miles per hour. So pretty incredible numbers coming from a Grand Tourer, a car that is supposed to be comfortable and sporty at the same time. I think, again, Aston Martin did a great job. Again, this car has, I would say, about 40 more horsepower than the outgoing V12, and about 140 more than the outgoing V8. So definitely an impressive number in this car. And one thing I want to note, obviously, is that we have this iconic badge in here of who inspected it and the final inspection done. So in this case, Mr. Luke Wensley Thank you for providing us with this beautiful car. One thing to note though in here is that they are slightly widened turbos on here too, slightly larger turbos, which help give that engine a lot more power. I do love the look overall underneath the hood. It is a super mechanical look. Again, I like how a lot of car manufacturers are starting to stray away from covering their engines in engine plastics and being super hard to either look at or work on. Obviously something like this, you're not going to really need to ever work on it, but I'm just glad to see that they are keeping a more mechanical feel and look underneath the hood. So without further ado, I'm going to close this up and we're going to go ahead and get a cold start on the brand new DB12. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that cold start clip on the DB12. I think it sounds phenomenal. I'm not gonna rev it. So I'm gonna go ahead now and go to the side of the car and we're gonna continue on this exterior review. So starting off on the front wheels on this car, of course, we have carbon ceramic brakes. We have this beautiful golden brake caliper on here. I think it looks beautiful. And we have these 21-inch forged wheels. I think they look phenomenal as well. One thing to note that's bespoke to the Aston Martin DB12 is the tire that's on here. This is the Michelin Pilot Sport 5S. So obviously everyone knows of the 4S's. One issue that the DB11 had was a lot of slippage. Now with this brand new tire, again, just bespoke to this car in particular, this car is able to have a super grippy traction on here and allows it to really fly around the track whenever needed, especially on those rear tires. These fronts, speaking of rears, is going to be 275s by 35s, and again, these are 21-inch wheels on the front. Just behind that wheel now is obviously your iconic vent right in here. We have your Aston Martin spelled out right on here, and then obviously that's finished in carbon fiber and this piano black finish. Now, similar, obviously, which is right next to me, is the DBS. So you could see it kind of has a similar look to the DBS, like that iconic flow, really beautiful to the eyes and elegant look. Just behind that, we have obviously your side view mirrors on this car. These are almost floating, like super elegant again, and brand new to the DB12, finished in carbon fiber on the caps up there, and the door sills on outside of here, as you can see, are also finished in carbon fiber. One really nice touch that I think that they added, and this right here is finished in piano black finish. Going down to the lower side skirt area, we have a large carbon fiber side skirt on here. I think again it looks phenomenal, and that super wide rear end body line, super aggressive, and again super wide. This is gonna be 22 millimeters, like I had stated before, wider than the outgoing DB11. And continuing on that top portion, you can see just how far back that goes with the carbon fiber, all the way to down here. It covers all of the pillars from the A pillar all the way down to the C pillar. I think it looks phenomenal on the outside. Really nice contrast out here. And then on the roof, you have this very large piano black finish roof, which again is going to be an extra option. We'll talk about price in just a minute as well. Coming down to the lower portion on here too, we have these rear wheels. Again, we have those bespoke Michelin Pilot Sport 5S's. The rear tires are going to be 325s by 30s. And again, these 21-inch forged alloy wheels. Again, we have that gold brake caliper on here and more carbon ceramic rotors on there. One thing that I do want to note though on the DB12 now finally is the price tag of this brand new Super Tourer. Starting MSRP on this car is going to be a $245 landed, obviously subject to change, and obviously the more options you add, that's going to be going ahead and rising up more and more and more. So you can see them between roughly 245 to the higher than the 3 mark for this car. So one thing to keep a note, but obviously with a sound like that and what this car features and what you guys are going to see on the interior, I think it is definitely a justifiable price for this beautiful car. All right, so now let's talk about the rear end of the DB12. This is where it's somewhat similar to the DB11, just tiny little touches that are going to be different here and there. You have your rear taillights on here, which again are going to be relatively similar to the DB11, not to the DBS. You have your Aston Martin wings in the center there with the Aston Martin name spelled out just underneath that. Again, relatively similar. We have a very large carbon fiber rear diffuser on here too, and the whole rear end of the car itself is finished in carbon fiber with 2 single exhaust pipes coming out of the rear. And you can see just below the license plate right in there is going to be your single reverse light for when you're backing up, and just above where your license plate is your rear view camera on here too. One thing to note when we jump into this car is that the tech inside of this car is so much more advanced than any other Aston Martin that's come out. And that's what I think is the major game changer for Aston Martin in this case. And I think it's helping them get their identity back versus them being, you know, some people may say a rebranded Mercedes, since they've had older Mercedes tech inside. So I think they did a great job in there, which we'll get into in just a minute. One thing to note around these rear exhaust pipes is this metal finish in here with this hexagon pattern in there where it kind of explodes out in different sizes of little hexagons, as you can see in there. Let's go ahead now and let's jump onto the interior of the DB12. All right, guys, we are now inside of the brand new DB12. First things first, when you're entering the car, it is like any other Aston Martin out there. The door handle is the same exact way, where you unlock the doors and then the door handle pops out on one side. You grab that and you're able to open the door. So nothing special on the actual entrance of the car. The big difference in this car is once you are inside. First words are wow, second words are amazing. So first things first, sitting in this car, ultra luxury, ultra comfort, super sporty, and a brand new design overall on here. All right, so initial impressions, like I said, are phenomenal. First things first, you're closing this door. This car has, for the first time that I think I've ever seen, is this beautiful wood grain finish. It looks so good inside of here. We have leather everywhere, your wood grain finish. You have little bits and pieces of this chrome look and tons of this piano black finish. So super elegant look inside of here. This wood grain finish against the leather and the chrome on here look so good. This car looks so classy inside, which I really appreciate. Again, it really helped, I think, Aston Martin to get their own name back. First things first, when you're entering this car is you see these two brand new screens. They're the same size. Your general cluster screen right here and your infotainment screen, they're the same exact size. It's gonna be 10.25 inches big. Again, brand new. Aston Martin is finally moving away from the AMG tech that they've had this deal with for the previous generations. So it's really nice to see a huge step up, I think. We have this brand new steering wheel design, super meaty, super aggressive looking, and these beautiful metal paddle shifters on here too, which are absolutely massive, and they feel and sound phenomenal when you click them. The steering wheel is going to have all your standard controls for your volume. You're able to control your main screen through here as well. To the left of that is going to be your air vents in here. You have your turn stock for your signals and these beautiful air vents in the center as well, which are so streamlined, designed into here. Again, they did a phenomenal job with that. Putting on the general power to the car, you are greeted with the brand new Aston Martin screen. The center screen illuminates with Aston Martin on there. And then on here is where you're able to control everything that you may need. For your digital cluster, it is a brand new layout too for your RPMs and everything like that. I think it's something that looks phenomenal. When you're putting on the actual power, you're able to see all of the different controls in here too. You have your center gauge on here, the new digital cluster on here, which shows everything that you will need. You have your miles per hour gauge in there. You have your RPM gauge in the center. And on the top right, it's going to tell you what mode you're in, which I think is really cool. Interesting thing about that is that you're able to actually change the modes. So speaking of drive modes in this car, you have 5 different drive modes. You have your GT mode, your Sport mode, your Sport Plus mode, your individual mode, and your wet mode. This can all be controlled via this brand new mode selector. So you're able to turn the knob that surrounds your engine start and stop switch, and it allows you to change your drive modes. So really cool little thing that they've put into here. Now, again, the whole center of this car is fully redesigned and absolutely beautiful. Just below that is your brand new gear selector. You have park, reverse, neutral, and drive. And underneath that is your manual button. The new screen in the center is going to tell you your power, your torque, your battery voltage, anything you may need when you're going around the track. You have ambient lighting in here as well. It allows you to also control the overall brightness in here too of that ambient lighting too. I think honestly it's super responsive. One thing to note is that this car does have a wireless phone charger just underneath here in this little storage area. All of your controls for your seats are going to be on the right side. That's pretty simple and typical to Aston Martin fashion. Now let's go ahead now and let's talk about just underneath this infotainment screen here. We have all of your general controls in here, your hazards, your AC modes, and everything like that. You're able to control your temperature and your air conditioning through these little scroll bars, which feel like metal, and they look so good. I like the way that they look. Again, everything is super responsive in here too. You have your different fan mode. You're able to control it to dual zone, so there's 2 different ones for the driver, 1 for the passenger. Your seats are heated and cooled, of course, and then underneath that is going to be all of your fun buttons, as you may say. You have your traction control button, you have your exhaust button to open up the valves in there, you have your suspension button to stiffen up the suspension whenever you want. You have auto start and stop on here, of course, and then on the right side is going to be all of your camera controls, such as your 3D camera, your park mode, and everything like that. Just below that is where your little storage areas are going to be. You have this little piano black finish cubby area in here, and that is going to be where your cup holders are, and that automatically slides open because, of course, elegance. Now, just behind that is going to be your little armrest area. In here, we have a little power outlet and 2 USB-C ports. One thing to note, though, about this armrest is the beautiful stitching in here, and this stitching runs throughout the entire car. That brings me on to the next thing inside of this car is the stitching, and the seats are absolutely beautiful. They did a phenomenal job on making the interior of this car look bespoke and like no other. I love the designs. We have the Aston Martin wings and name embroidered on the headrest in here. They're finished in this beautiful navy blue color, and the stitching that runs throughout here just looks so pretty. Everything just looks phenomenal. We have this beautiful crisscross diamond pattern in here. The rear seats are, of course, finished in that as well, and our headliner is wrapped in that as well. So really good job, Aston Martin, on doing that. Now, one thing that this car also features is a Bowers & Wilkins sound system in here. It has 15 speakers all throughout this car. So now, obviously, this car is a Super Tourer, so that means one thing: it has to be very comfortable, and these seats are very, very, very comfortable. Aston Martin is known, they're like the pinnacle of comfort, and when you think of luxury and comfort cars with sporty designs, you think of Aston Martin. I think they did a phenomenal job in here, and everything feels great. Now, rear seat room, I'm gonna be honest, pretty much non-existent. Unless you're small, you have small children, maybe. I won't even fit back there at all. Like, I'm not even gonna try, I'm sorry, but I can already tell that there's pretty much no room. Again, there's nothing too different from any other generation Aston Martin where that's surprising, but just keep that in note that yes, this does have 2 rear seats. Are they functional? Not so much. Maybe for a short distance if you're going up the block or something like that to a restaurant, but don't expect to be doing any long road trips with 4 people inside of this car. 2 people, definitely yes, but 4 people, you're gonna be pushing it. There's plenty of room though for storage overall if you're going to be having a couple of weekend bags or something like that. The trunk has a good amount of room in it as well, so that's one thing to note. And obviously, like I said, when you have this car in comfort mode, the sound and everything like that is perfect. The exhaust notes are kept to a low, suspension is very soft, and the steering is very light. So definitely a perfect middle ground car. However, when you put this car into Sport Plus mode, it really awakens that inner beast inside of it and allows all of that horsepower to have fun. So with that being said, now I'm going to hop outside of the car and we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video on the Aston Martin DB12. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up today's video on the DB12. Thank you again to Aston Martin and McLaren of Long Island, or Long Island Sports Cars, for letting me come by and letting me review the DB12. I'm going to put a link to the dealership in the description below, so feel free to check them out. Do the Contact Us tab on there as well if you are interested in purchasing a DB12 for yourself. The staff here is super friendly and super amazing and will help you get the car of your dreams. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video on the DB12. Thank you for checking it out. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know when I post next, and I look forward to seeing you guys all in the next one. Take care.